What's up, guys? Hope you have a fantastic week so far. Once again, bring you guys another video. We'll be finishing off the Mistakes of the Emperor number 3. Should be part 2 of it. I'm excited to get it done. I know you guys are as well. If you guys want to watch part 1, I'll probably leave a link in the description. You guys can check it out on my page as well. It's the last video that I've uploaded before this one. Highly encourage it just because, you won't really know what's going on. And, you're missing like 23 minutes of information. So I just recommend it. Yeah, so like always, original video in the description. It's Old Man Reacts. He does a phenomenal job like always. If you guys have watched any of my other content, you know that I love his content. He does a great job, puts a lot of funny jokes in, or just the way he narrates, just really gets the point across well, and he puts a lot of passion into it. So if you have not subscribed to him or liked his videos, I highly recommend it because he deserves way more than he already has. I mean, he deserves like at least about 100K subscribers in my honest opinion. And if you guys enjoy my content, enjoy my reactions, and enjoy the community, if you guys like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Let's get to it.
The Horus Heresy did not begin near a destroyed city called Monarchia. It actually started with the Ragdan Genocides. So now we come back to the first question I sought to answer. Why did the Emperor allow Lorgar to live in the first place? I said the answer to...
By the way, just to catch you guys up where we are, LORGAR, this guy right here, is one of the Emperor's, basically kids, if you want to put in that kind of aspect. And as you guys know, they were sent to different planets around the entire, universe and galaxy or whatever. And basically, he is a very religious, over-the-top individual, if you want to put it that way. I guess you almost put him in the realm of like a cultist. And he saw the Emperor as basically a god, which of course the Emperor didn't. And since the Emperor recruited him to his ranks to help him with, his wars and whatnot, he seemed to have dropped his religious tendencies, which of course was just a lie and just a way to trick the Emperor, even though the Emperor was kind of aware of it. And LORGAR slowly turned the legion he was assigned to into kind of his religious cultist kind of mindset, which is not really good for what the Emperor is trying to do. That's basically where we're at.
That was a dark one, and it is this. It is my belief that after the Emperor had seen the religious fervor displayed in Lorgar, the Emperor had no intention on him surviving the Great Crusade. Lorgar's personality had been tailor-made to fill a specific role within the Imperium, that of an ambassador and diplomat, but the aspect of religion as well as the influence of Cor Pharon had twisted those same personality traits in a far different direction, turning Lorgar into a zealot. By the time Lorgar met the Emperor, he had become a complete fanatic. And in the face of that, the Emperor knew well that he had no real recourse unless Lorgar himself changed.
Which, of course, won't happen.
His sons as tools, and Lorgar was supposed to be a flat-tipped screwdriver with a soft foam grip, meant to gently drive the point home and make life painless for everyone. Instead, Lorgar was a book of hymnals. Well, at least it still functions as a hammer, at least for a little while. Lorgar could stop saying he worshipped the Emperor, but even then the Emperor knew full well that he still did. It is my belief that the Emperor had decided to roll the dice with Lorgar, giving his zealous son a chance to change, and if not, there was another more final option he had in store. During the Unification Wars, the backbone of the Emperor's military forces were genetically modified super soldiers known as the Thunder Warriors.
They look dope.
The Thunder Warriors were actually stronger, faster, and more combat capable than the Space Marines who were...
Isn't that kind of like scary when you think about it? Like, these guys are more dangerous than a Space Marine. Which, if you guys have watched any actual like cinematics of Warhammer and you see Space Marines, to say they're OP is an understatement.
Placed them, but they were far less stable in both temperament and genetics. It is an Imperial legend that during the last battle of the Unification Wars, the Thunder Warriors died to the last man on the slopes of Mount Ararat, fighting the enemies of the Emperor. The only accurate bit of information in that legend is that the Thunder Warriors died. One of the greatest lies in Imperial history covers up a horrific truth, that the Emperor of Mankind repaid the Thunder Warriors by ordering his personal guard, the Adeptus Custodes, to destroy them all as they had fulfilled their purpose.
A little messed up.
Of all the genetically modified Thunder Warriors who fought and died for the Emperor, only a few are known to have lived from the genocide of their entire genetic strain. It is a truth that if it came out, would have meant almost immediate civil war. The Emperor had taken an inconvenience and turned that inconvenience into a tale of sacrifice and loyalty that had endured. If he had done it once, there was no reason he wouldn't have done it again. But if this was
Facts.
truly the decision he was going to make, it was interrupted entirely by the Ragdan Xenocides. By the time the wars were over and the Emperor had a chance to follow up on the reports that he had been receiving regarding...
Look at those casualties, man. I was pausing so you guys can read them. Wow. See, like the big thing is like you can look at like the Space Wolves and all of them had heavy casualties. There's 90,000 Dark Angels. The thing that caught my eye was the several Titan legions, and I did a video about these Titan legions, and they are ridiculous. To lose 7 of them, like that's crazy, dude. You know, I mean that is insane, and you can just kind of use your imagination a little bit to show how crazy combat was to make one of these Titans actually just make a single Titan fall, let alone several legions fall. I mean, it was. I think we need a movie. I just want an hour-long movie of just showing this entire battle. I don't care. I don't care if there's no talking. I don't care. I just want an hour-long movie of just nonstop, just action. That'd be awesome.
the actions
That'd be
of
awesome.
the son Lorgar, there were 2 destroyed legions, 3 that were depleted beyond half strength, several more that needed to recuperate from serious losses, and scores of other military forces that had been either outright destroyed or needed to replenish over half their strength. The Great Crusade at that point was only being pressed forward by the human expedition fleets and the remaining legions that simply did not engage in the Xenocides, one of which was Lorgar's. In the face of this, the Emperor could simply no longer afford to allow the snail's crawl of Lorgar's legion to continue. It was in the aftermath of all of this that the Emperor called Robute Guilliman to his side, who now controlled the largest legion in the Imperium, and set off to the world of Kur and the city of Monarchia. When most are introduced to what happened at Monarchia, the most common reaction is bewilderment, simply because it's the first time that you're meeting many of these characters in the lore. As the Ultramarines had the 500 worlds of Ultramar, the Wordbearers also had their little pocket empire, and its crown jewel was Monarchia. It was a city purely devoted to the worship of the Emperor, and many Wordbearers considered it the perfect city. A fleet arrived in the orbit of planet Kur, and the
This is not gonna go well.
deployed in full Legion strength against the city and can only be
Full
called
Legion.
a planetary assault drop. They were accompanied by members of the Emperor's personal guard, the Custodes. The occupied city of Monarchia was easily taken, and the Ultramarines herded the population out of the city. Many civilians were killed in the process as they rioted against the orders. Once a certain time frame had been reached, the civilian population was out of the city, and the fleet in orbit opened fire, destroying Monarchia completely. It was only then that the civilian population of Kur was allowed to send a message to the Wordbearers. From the outside, this looks absolutely out of character for both the Emperor and
Absolutely.
the Ultramarines in particular. The Ultramarines were known for their absolute iron discipline, and yet they opened fire on civilians who had at best been throwing pottery at them in completely understandable fear and anxiety. What's clear in the interactions between the Ultramarines and some of the civilians is they were unhappily following orders that Guilliman himself was none too happy to issue. These orders to open fire on the civilians who resisted the evacuation order came from the Emperor himself. Once again,
Can't say
it's
nothing.
time for context. To any who think the Ultramarines wouldn't fire on a civilian population, I invite you to think again. They most definitely would, and their tally of compliances confirms it. They may not have enjoyed the orders, and the writing supports that they did not, but it was far less harsh than it could have been. Evidence of this comes from the dialogue between a young woman named Cyrene and a Thunderhawk pilot who tries to reason with her to do what she's been asked to do, and only losing patience when she continues to call the Emperor a god. The population had been openly fighting the presence of the Ultramarines, but the crackdown had been equally harsh. In truth, the city was in a de facto state of rebellion against the edicts of the Imperial Truth, and completely out of the borders of Imperial compliance. Also realize that if Lorgar had not landed on Colchis itself, the Emperor would have most likely had it scoured of life, considering the nature of the religion that existed there. That includes killing civilians. A lot of them. The fact the Emperor ordered the evacuation at all was a mercy, considering how organized and open religions were usually treated. But it is a mercy that many forget was a...
For anyone who's also watching this that doesn't have too much context, the Emperor basically wanted to unify humanity without religion. He wanted to almost be, in a way, like an atheist kind of culture. So that's why he kind of tried to expunge any religion. So like he said, the fact that he even evacuated this city is a really nice gesture by the emperor, because 9 out of 10 times he's just gonna obliterate you, which sounds really messed up, but at the same time, who's really gonna say no to him? You can't. He's on his crusade, and well, it's just kind of sad what happens to some people. But so this event could have been significantly worse than what it was, obviously, but still, still pretty messed up.
Mercy at all. Remember, this was a message not targeted at the civilians of Kerr. It was a message targeted clearly at the word bearers. The city's destruction also needs to be put into context. This was the Emperor's final warning to Lorgar, and he needed to be shown the results. It is clear from the lore that the Emperor tried to reason with him more than once, but Lorgar refused to be swayed before this incident. The Emperor needed to show where Lorgar's path would lead in a way that would brook no further argument. The destruction of Lorgar's perfect city, a city architecturally designed for the purpose of the glorification of the Emperor as a god, was the example. When the word bearers broke warp, they came in ready to fight, but not knowing who they were going to be fighting. When the civilian leadership sent their distress call, they had identified the Ultramarines as their attackers. The concept of fighting another legion stole the thunder from the word bearers, and they were stunned when they were ordered to assemble in full legion strength in the ashes of Monarchia. When Lorgar came down, his Stormbird was flanked by several Ultramarine Thunderhawks.
Oh.
No one could miss the fact that the weapons of the Thunderhawks were locked onto the Stormbird of Lorgar. This was not an escort, it was a prisoner transfer.
You going to jail? You going to jail? You going to jail?
No! Damn! That uppercut was nasty.
They were soon attended by 100 Ultramarines, which
That was an uppercut, right? Oh, hot damn!
directly addressed by Malkador the Sigillite.
Don't play with that man.
You'll
You'll knock my ass out.
Malkador tried to reason with the irate Primarch of the Word Bearers, only to get backhanded for his efforts.
Man got punched so hard it took him out of his clothes. Ah, damn! Holy shit. Okay. That's impressive.
Once Malkador recovered enough to speak, he called to the Emperor himself. As the Emperor arrived in a flash of teleportation, he once again tried to reason with Lorgar. And while some criticized the discussion between the Emperor and Lorgar, what was clear to me is the Emperor was tired of making the same points over and over again to his wayward son.
Just tell me how we can something so simple up. Enough's enough.
Gordon.
All together. Off. Get out. Get out.
In the end, the Emperor set out to do one single thing at Monarchia, and that was to utterly crush Lorgar's faith in front of his legion. He forced the entirety of the Lord Bearers' Legion to kneel before him in the ashes of their perfect city. And while some of the Word Bearers railed against this forced subjugation, it came with a point. He told them that of every legion, the Word Bearers alone had failed him.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Erecting monuments to lies. And
Oh, that's
the
awesome.
conquered worlds into a false faith. He told them that this was the end that they were heading towards, and the meaning to everyone should have been obvious. This was the final warning. There would be no more discussion. The impact of the Emperor's words was more destructive than the bombardment of the city itself. As the Emperor teleported back into orbit, Lorgar was left facing his brother on the planet below and lashed out at the Primarch of the Ultramarines, accusing him of drawing satisfaction from seeing his legion shamed. When Guilliman denied this, saying Lorgar was over-imaginative, Lorgar struck Guilliman with his Crozius hammer.
Damn. I'm so confused. What the?
This was the first time that either legion had seen a Primarch attack another Primarch, as neither of them had been there for what happened to the 2nd and 11th Legion. The entirety of the Word Bearers Legion, before Guilliman had even hit the ground, were training their bolters on the Ultramarines. And the 100 Ultramarines had their bolters trained right back at them. Both sides were in disbelief at what was transpiring. But several Word Bearers recalled, wishing that someone had actually started firing. This was not in itself signs of early chaos corruption in the Word Bearers. This is just a simple and natural reaction to the events transpiring in front of them. In the end, Lorgar had misjudged Gilliman, for in truth Gilliman did not even want to be there. For all of the talk that Gilliman and the Emperor had planned this activity together, there is very little evidence whatsoever that Gilliman had anything to do with the planning of this event. Gilliman himself was not comfortable with the idea of shaming a legion, and much less comfortable with his legion being used in the process, and this bothered him for years. The Emperor wanted the Primarch of the Ultramarines there as an example for the Word Bearers to set themselves to, but wound up placing a target on the backs of the Knights of Ultramar that would eventually be shot at in the Second Great Betrayal of Horus Heresy at the Battle of Calth.
Whew.
The situation rapidly defused as Lorgar's anger bled away, replaced by the shame of what had just happened. The Word Bearers returned to their ships to lick their wounded pride, further wounded now that they knew that they would be accompanied by a force of custodes to watch their actions and report back to the Emperor. While they were not around for what happened to the 2nd and 11th Legion, the Word Bearers were well aware of what Monarchia meant for them as a legion, and so did Lorgar. Lorgar's faith was completely shattered, as was his legion. But as the Word Bearers went back into orbit, the only true mistake the Emperor made at Monarchia came into effect. Often when people discuss the Horus Heresy, they bring up Monarchia as a prime example of the Emperor's lack of judgment. In truth, in the planning and execution of Monarchia, the Emperor had done exactly what he had set out to do. Lorgar was facing down the truth of what he had done, not only to himself and to his...
It's not like the Emperor just did this out of spite, you know? Like, he did give out multiple warnings multiple times, trying to change him, to try to tell him just don't do it. Basically begging him, you know, you could probably put that in kind of a sense, but he constantly just didn't want to listen. Of course, you know, taking out an entire city and killing civilians isn't really the best way to do it, but I don't know, man. When you got a guy like Lorgar that's just kind of crazy, you know, there's only so much you can do. But
and the planets they had conquered,
I don't
like
know.
his homeworld. His god had burned his faith away and burned it to ash in such a brutal manner that he was actually facing his errors in judgment. He spitefully recalled the Schism War and how he had burned his homeworld in the name of faith, a faith he now knew in his heart was wronged. If Lorgar was facing this alone, or with another set of company captains, this would have radically altered the future of not only the Word Bearers, but the entire Imperium. The destruction of Monarchia was meant to be brutal. It was meant to be a savage slap to the face of a Primarch and a Legion who had not listened to reason. While one can lament the fact that the city, and in fact many other cities on the planet had been leveled, and that the civilian population had suffered, one can also wonder why the Emperor would order such a thing. But it is easy to forget that in its expansion, the Word Bearers themselves had done far worse, as had every other legion in the Crusade. Even the act of forcing the Word Bearers to kneel in the ashes of the city had a symbolic purpose, as one of the ceremonies of the Word Bearers was to observe solemn rites in the ashes of cities on worlds that they had conquered. If you want a synonym for conquered in this regard, obliterated.
it's like they're innocent.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
The Emperor's mistake in all this was not the destruction of Monarchia, and it was not the humbling of the Word Bearers, because his actions actually had their intended effect. Lorgar's faith had been utterly crushed, and his legion, while shamed, was well under the will of its Primarch. The only mistake the Emperor made at Monarchia, and with Lorgar in general, was not putting a bolt round in the head of Corferon, and not putting a second bolt round in the head of Erebus. It is a joke in 40k to say that Lorgar was at fault for everything, but in absolute truth, at least half of that responsibility falls to Corferon and Erebus. Just when Lorgar was on the verge of overcoming the
Just a
religious
mastermind kind of
indoctrination that his
father, a
foster
prick.
father had put him through, Corferon and Erebus were quick to capitalize on the eviscerated ego that the Emperor had left behind. I need to take a break for a few minutes before I continue. It was my firm belief, due to the subject of today's Voxcast, I needed to take certain precautions.
Die, heretic! Die! 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 Burn in holy fire!
Sister Evele, are you enjoying the game?
Yes, Commissar. I thought purging the Xenos was fun in person, but this is a welcome distraction. Did you tell them that you opened a Patreon?
Yes.
Like and subscribe to the Voxcast?
Yes. Do you see?
Sorry, I'm poor.
Make them repent, Sister Evele.
Repent! run, motherfucker!
Alright, Sister Evelay, have fun purging the heretics in the name of the Emperor. Unplug this. Unplug this. Okay, now I shouldn't be interrupted.
Okay. That just happened. Hello.
Lorgar, you
Woo-wee.
fucking prick. Lorgar's largest character flaw, by a high measure, was his
6.
susceptibility to the
Look at the look at the time of that thing. Holy crap! Damn.
illusion, and in turn,
Woo.
believing even the most obvious lies about his own nature. He desired to believe the best of himself, and both Corferon and Erebus knew well how to manipulate those flaws. Lorgar could not see the expression that Erebus did on the face of Corferon. Erebus saw Corferon for what he wanted and always has wanted. The hunger for power and the desire to control. All Lorgar's dumbass could see was the delusion. One that Corferon had maintained even if he had beat the shit out of Lorgar as a child on Colchis. Lorgar saw a father who grieved for his son, where only a few minutes ago, Lorgar was looking inwards at his mistakes. Corferon and Erebus just slowly began to guide the Primarch toward a plan that the two of them had laid in wait just for a day like this one, when Lorgar's faith would be ruptured and could be reforged in a new direction. One of the most laughable lies that Corferon told Lorgar, and Lorgar actually fucking believed, is that Lorgar could not commit acts of cruelty with a smile on his face. Bullshit! Lorgar had only come a few hours away, in truth, from reforging himself and his legion. But all of a sudden, the manipulations of Corferon and Erebus, and now the word bearers on a path of damnation, and the only thing it took was really soft-spoken flattery and appeals to Lorgar's sensitive little ego. While the Emperor had achieved exactly what he wanted to achieve, the lack of time spent around his son and his legion left him without a singular, critical piece of information.
He's a very strange young man.
He's an idiot.
Lorgar was a puppet. While not afraid of Corferon or Erebus or in any way physically challenged by them, Lorgar was completely subject to the words and whims of his foster father and was under the thumb of the old priest. The problem was that Lorgar never even fully realized it until far after his fall. Or maybe he actually did realize it, but he was too much of a pussy to actually do anything about it. Or maybe he did realize it, but just didn't want to do anything about it because he could always turn around and be like, "Daddy, you told me that this was good." What
I can't, it's
fucking
funny.
phenomenal prick in any regards.
Dude, he just turned the knob on this video. Like, it was like a nice commentary, intermission, and just boom. He just flipped it. I mean, there's just, he sounds pissed off. This is good fun. This is good fun.
I have no sympathy, no pity, and I just do not give a shit about anybody saying that Lorgar was just a good old boy who was trying to do things the right way.
But he wasn't,
Fuck
though.
him,
But he wasn't,
fuck
though.
that. When some people
I feel Lorgar was anything but that, dude, because, like, he was just dominating planets and cities and forced them to join his religion stuff, right? Unless I'm just thinking something wrong, but I never thought Lorgar was really a good person.
read the story of
Absolutely
Lorgar,
not.
the first
He was
heretic,
nuts.
they don't seem to grasp the full reality of what is happening and the subtlety of the words at play. At no point when I reread the story of Lorgar's fall do I even begin to feel pity for Lorgar or Aurelian. Lorgar's fall was not dictated by the Emperor, because, unpopular opinion, Monarchia was not a mistake of the Emperor at all. The massive casualties of the Rangdan genocides forced the Emperor to take drastic action so the Great Crusade wouldn't stall. In this drastic action, he made an extremely powerful statement, but that statement did not cause Lorgar's fall. The actions of the Emperor did not set Lorgar on the course to chaos. Lorgar's fall was decided because at no point could the Primarch be honest with himself. He would look for any way out, any excuse, and grab hold of it to keep the truth at bay. Even in the present age
denial.
of the Imperium, Lorgar continues to hold on to his faith and fanaticism to distract himself from the truth. That truth that the Emperor revealed to him in Monarchy in such a way it shattered a zealot's faith. Lorgar was not the kind, gentle, and loving soul that he had allowed himself to be convinced that he was through endless amounts of bullshit. He was not a merciful lord who could not commit atrocity with a smile on his face. He was never interested in the truth at all. He was never interested in the betterment of mankind and a hope of a better tomorrow. He was neither a poet, a scholar, or a visionary. He was not possessed of unshakable loyalty or devotion. He never genuinely cared for humanity. He was never a
LORGAR.
dreamer, and the last thing he ever approached being was introspective. LORGAR was a weak-willed, genocidal zealot, one who would loudly and vocally lament the decisions he made that brought the galaxy to burn. One who would loudly and visibly proclaim that he never wanted the truth to be like this, but because it was the truth, he just had to pursue it. One who tried to deny his accountability.
What is this? What? I don't even. Where do you find this stuff, man? Like I've searched the internet for like, you know, if I ever want to get like a thing for like a caption or a thumbnail or something, you know, and I can never find these funny little things, and he finds so many. He's like, what is this? What? I don't even know. I don't even know.
The Horus Heresy when he was the motherfucker who initiated the damn thing. These last three statements are telling, because even the most self-deluded idiot eventually breaks the needle on their own bullshit meter. And when you strip the sheer acreage of bullshit away from LORGAR, what you're left with is a pathetic, insecure, and disgustingly unworthy Primarch who didn't even have the courage to own up to their own actions. In fact, of all the traitor Primarchs, LORGAR is the only one whose reasons for turning I simply cannot respect in the slightest. Conrad Curse turned because his disposition drove him insane, and his latent need for justice demanded he keep going until someone actually truly punish him for his crimes. Magnus the Red turned out of complete and utter necessity to save himself and his legion due to scheming by Horus himself. Perturabo was a man who only truly wished to create, but because of the lot in life he drew, he was only allowed to destroy. He was a Primarch who hated the very military actions that he was actually the best at, and that hatred turned to pure bitterness at the thanklessness of the task he performed.
Makes
Fulgrim
sense.
had the very core of his nature perverted by Slaanesh, his arrogance and self-confidence ultimately causing his downfall before he himself even realized he was falling to begin with. Mortarion ultimately had the most sympathetic cause to turn on the Emperor out of all of them besides Angron, and that's because he just simply had more loyalty towards Horus to begin with. Alpharius turned to preserve the Emperor's dream, and in reality, they might not even be traitors in the Alpha Legion. With the Alpha Legion, nothing is certain. I have respect for Angron because he actually had reasons for everything he did. I have none for LORGAR. LORGAR took advantage of Angron's plight to literally turn him into a sacrifice to the Chaos Gods, and for all of his bluster and bullshit, claiming he just wanted to save Angron's life, all of that is complete horseshit. LORGAR did nothing more or less than condemn Angron to an eternity of suffering and hate.
Yep.
And for what? The claim that he loved his brother? No, but LORGAR definitely bullshitted himself into believing it, just like he bullshitted himself into believing every other blatant lie he either told himself or what was told about him to cushion
Such
his glass
denial,
ego
man.
and boost his fragile self-esteem. You want to know the reason LORGAR did to Angron what he did? He did it not out of love for his brother, but to suck the ass of the Chaos Gods. Well, normally in this series, I'd be putting the decisions of the Emperor on blast or into context. I'm not doing that this time. The Emperor well and truly did nothing wrong on Monarch.
Hashtag Big E did nothing wrong.
The truth about his son's nature that
That's
only
awesome.
his foster father really understood. LORGAR never wanted to lead the heresy. He wanted to give grand speeches in support of the one who did, and be loved and respected for it. And look how well that turned out for him when he's trying to give a speech above Isfahan 5 about what they're doing, and Conrad Curse is literally 4 hours away from telling him that he's the most pathetic coward known to exist. And believe me, Conrad has seen some pathetic shit. His job was to terrify people into pissing their pants and handing over all their family members so he wouldn't turn himself loose on them. Conrad thought LORGAR was more pathetic than that. LORGAR never wanted to be the one to shoulder the responsibility. Never that, blaming anyone else in Reach for the atrocities that he himself had initiated and approved.
Dude, he is going off on LORGAR. I love it. I mean, he's like, I know there's some people in 40K who've stooped to some lows, man. But so far, LORGAR, in my opinion, at least from the stuff I've watched and I've learned so far, is probably one of the lowest people so far, in my opinion. He's pretty low.
He never wanted to be responsible for any decision he had made, blaming the need for the truth, claiming that it was the will of the gods, claiming he must sacrifice anything and everything for the truth, and no matter what the cost, no matter how perverse or horrific, Lorgar would pay it, and gladly. Anything to keep from facing the real truth. The truth that Lorgar has not once been able to accept about himself and still cannot. Lorgar cannot face the fact that he is evil. Evil in its most pure form.
Yep.
That's it. The
and crazy.
fucking video is done on Lorgar. Fuck Lorgar. Old man out.
Big E did nothing wrong. I love it. Oh, it's awesome. Well, I think he said it best. Lorgar, like I said, he's a pretty low dude. He sucks. He's evil and he's crazy. There's nothing else you can say about him. Also, he really turned the dial on the intensity of this video. I mean, like at the start, I mean, it was like his other videos, and then it's just like he had that intermission, and then he just flipped that shit to 11. I mean, he just went from like 7 just right to 11, man. You know, and he went off. I mean that last 10, 12 minutes of that video were just nonstop, just roasting him, and it was awesome. That's why I didn't talk that much, because I was just in shock. I was just like, holy shit. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video as much as I did. Like always, the original video will be in the description. Please show him some love. I mean, if you guys made it this far, you obviously love his videos, so please, 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 hit him a like, subscribe to him. I know he'd appreciate it. I know I would definitely appreciate it. And if you guys also enjoy my content, you enjoy my reactions, and you enjoy just all of our community, if you guys can like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.